was a strange story actually. IHM Bangalore was 1 year old when I joined. They'd started the previous year. There'd been an exodus of staff from the organization where I was working, and I happened to make a slight comment to a friend and colleague that the level of teaching didn't seem very high and maybe even I could do something like it. And he stopped at that point and said, if you're serious, they're looking for staff. And that's what got me there. I thought I'd give it a shot for a couple of years and see how I liked it. I ended up spending, 14, 16 years over there.
Yeah. But actually, the whole hotel management career itself was totally by chance. Like my brother-in-law said, why don't you do this? And I was like, what is catering technology? I have no clue. He said, give it a shot. So I went in. 3 years in college was like, what shall I say, eye-opener to many things, because everything was new. And yeah, we managed that, and then working in hotels and quit hotels. Of course, it was the Taj that I started with. And the year of my graduation was when IHM Bangalore opened. And I used to come for part-time teaching at the IHM. I think you remember that.
Yes.
I was never a full-time till 91, after quite some time. And then, yeah, worked as examiners for them, set question papers. Can you believe that? I can't. But then all that was fun and games. And then I never thought it was going to be an career change and join into the college. But yes, the advertisements came and I replied, and they thought I was good enough to be teaching here. And that was one of the questions. In fact, the principal of IHM Bangalore, Mr. Balchandra, was my HOD at Chennai Catering College. And that time he asked me, would you be able to handle any non-veg? I mean, you're from a pure vegetarian background, very conservative and everything. I said, I've done my science 2 years, PUC, where I handled the things like cockroaches and worms. So I don't think this is going to be so much of a problem. I never knew what I was into. Breezed it. And well, they believed me that I could manage it. To date, I'll tell you all a secret. I cannot handle a jointing of the chicken. To date. I'm always worried because inevitably make the first incision and then everything goes for a toss. So I had table mates who used to do that. Because anyway, I never ate it, they ate it, so they did it also.
I would say yes, I think so. I worked at the West End when it was under Spencer's management between two terms of the Taj taking it over.
True.
But that's a tall one, so I'm going to leave you to answer that.
I think the question of what did women contribute is enormous, because quite honestly, yes, it was a male-dominated industry. It was something that, I mean, everyone was like, I mean, you're going to go into, going back, and my grandma, you'll have to go into rooms where there are men. And like, so? She says, no, you cannot go and work in housekeeping and all. No, you can't do all that. And that was the general idea.
Strangely, women in those days, it was considered like a given that they would only join front office or housekeeping. So women in the kitchen per se, or even in F&B, were much rarer in those days. In fact, I think the Oberois took in 2 of my batchmates, or maybe more than that, I remember, because 2 of them were dear friends of mine, in their kitchen program for, I think, possibly the very first time. Well, I have to admit, I left before all this technology came in, but I think it's made huge strides.
True. When I started teaching, it was perhaps just the OHP and slide projectors, the manual ones, and we had to literally create those transparencies so that we could project. That was the level of technology, and that was something even better than what we had actually gone through, because yeah, we had nothing. We just had chalk and blackboard kind of a thing when we were studying. So when we got these, there was a whole rush of modernization in the IHMs, if you remember, right? A lot of things came in, including equipment and teaching aids and everything. So all these kind of made it, what shall I say?
Easier, for sure.
Yes.
And I remember being hugely impressed with one projector that we were equipped with, which would actually project the contents of a book.
And today, I mean,
today there's no end to what you can do.
Wow, the resources that are available at the tap of a button, literally, or the click of a mouse. In terms of pedagogy, I would never go back to those days. I would rather look to see now where we are trying to not just teach, but to, what shall I say, what is the word, facilitate. So you know that there is a change, because we all went through that rote learning. Today, which is very good, is that you have the facilitator rather than the teacher, because the teacher now is the facilitator as well, to help them experience the learning. So it becomes more experiential, and when that happens, it stays in your head. As all of us have seen, when we do, we learn and we remember, right? So that kind of a change is there. But what is it that from those days has endured is the chalkboard. I still find my chalkboard very, very convenient. So I would love to write, or a whiteboard, or a flip chart.
And have a book in front of you which you can look through rather than having to click and go back and forth, or have a series of books open in front of you.
No, I prefer the clicking.
Okay.
The books are definitely something that I would always refer to, but I would also like to see my work on the interactive board or a smart board, whatever. And it's easier for them. It goes straight into their laptops if you're all connected. That advancement is immense. Believe me, makes teaching more facilitating than anything else. Because now today you are walking into a classroom where the student has possibly visited more sites than you have, right? And he or she is going to be primed with questions which you have absolutely no idea about, because the world is the World Wide Web. So everything is there for them, and they are looking at it and they are asking you. Go back to one standard line we always had, Pheroza.
Which was that?
Which was,
I don't remember.
last year's batch was so much better than y'all. So it was always like that.
It was much easier when I first started, because I had a small batches to contend with. I knew everyone, got to know them much better, spent a lot more time with them. As the class strength grew, it reached a point where it was physically impossible to know every student of yours, and I didn't like that very much. I didn't feel that it was the right attitude. But there was no going back, really. Numbers were increasing. And what can I say about that?
True.
Without it.
That was the challenge, actually, to continue to keep the content contemporary, as well as reach out to every single person in your classroom.
That was really difficult, because with the sheer numbers that you were dealing with, you didn't know how effectively you were getting through to them. And that was something that I didn't particularly like towards the end of my career. Oh. I think that's a good thing, because there were so many more opportunities available to the students who were passing out. Initially, it was only the hotels that we were catering to. Hours were long, work was hard, and pay scales were not the greatest. So all in all, when other avenues opened, I think it was much better for the people who were passing out at that point.
Yeah, true. I have to agree with what she says, because one thing. Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Please complete.
And I feel that if the hotels were losing out on staff at that point in time, it was possibly their own fault. They should have, maybe upped their work conditions for the people concerned.
Yeah. So when you look at it, the boom in technology was what created so many diverse opportunities for a hotel management graduate. And I think the course was so designed that, although we say one size doesn't fit all, but it was similar to something like that, where the person who is the student who is graduating from the hotel management course was able to fit into, say for example at that time, at the beginning was maybe a call center, what we call retail, right? And you also had them not looking just at the hotels. And in those days also, we were very, what shall I say, targeting maybe the 5 stars. Okay, so we were all training to...
We really were, and we were also catering a lot to the operations side of the 5 stars rather than the managerial side. So the entry level also was kind of restricted, in my opinion.
So then the management, the curriculum, if you have to talk about the curriculum at some stage, is that yes, it left a lot of lacuna for a person aiming towards maybe a management career.
Yeah.
So there was not much he or she had after 3 years to actually equip them to straight away be at the managerial level. Mainly curriculum. The design and curriculum both have to be conjoined. They cannot be separated. The aspect was a lot of emphasis on practical training. As a result, you found that the tutors, the teachers and the students were all geared towards how to do things, how to get things practically done. They were excellent. However, when it came to inputs on the management level, we did have a lot of lacuna because one, the whole curriculum did not emphasize too much on the managerial inputs, which to an extent has changed in the IHMs also now.
No, I can't say I was aware of that.
Yeah,
you would have been.
There has been.
Hmm?
Maybe
there would have been, but I can't say I noticed it myself personally.
As from the time I joined in 91 to maybe about the time you all, even after you all graduated, it won't even be at your time, at maybe around say late 90s, early 2000s, would have been the time when the HR, the training managers, the HR managers, the industry's perception towards training has always been, oh, training. They just take people away when we need them. We don't need them, they are there, we have to go through it, so let's just put. However, towards 2000s, the concept of HR and training came into its own. So there was a change. And then you found that yes, you had a whole, earlier it used to be the GMs and the operations managers a lot more than the HR, because HR was never there, they were just there, they were also there. However, later you found that the HR managers, the training managers, everybody started actually coming in to recruit, which makes a lot of sense. And that was there. And there is a thrust on refresher programs, on so many things that have happened. I would say early 2000s when this kind of a change started happening. It was visible change that started happening. So that is there. Um, I don't know if you noticed that
No, I didn't. I didn't notice it when I left the institute. I haven't noticed it up to then.
because that's when, till the time the HR in the hotels were entrusted with the job of getting casuals in from the catering colleges for ODCs. That was their sum total of existence. However, after that, at some stage, the thrust did come from the giants of the hospitality in India. It must have happened earlier outside India. It did happen earlier outside of India. And then you found that the larger chains started getting into the actual thrust of training. So they started their management training programs rather than just having the the operations level training programs.
But they had they had the management training programs even earlier. But strangely, I often tended to notice that they were taking in their management trainees from graduate colleges rather than from the IHMs. And that, to my mind, didn't seem right.
One thing that they do think is that the levels of compensation, the pay, in other words, the remuneration that they give, is never attractive to a person who's really good and wants to be in the hospitality industry, however, finds that this is something that cannot work. So I'm sure when you all also taking up jobs, you always found that, it's not enough to sustain yourselves, the level of remuneration that you offer. It has upped a bit today, and that's only to the, again, management training program, which they call all of the chains have flagship programs now. So whether you look at the Leela, the Taj, the Oberoi, the Taj and the Oberoi always had it. Almost all the other chains that have come in the Marriotts, there has been an explosion of, hospitality in India. So we've had so many chains coming in. They all are quite happy to pick up at that level very well. But when you come to the junior management level, not so well, still. So you're looking at, between the entry level and the junior management level, there's not much to choose. So that is something that the hotels, the hospitality industry needs to buck up and look at and change. Hopefully will happen.
Probably be very unpopular with anyone in the industry for saying something like this, but I feel that the level of remuneration offered and the hours of work that are being put in, especially at the operations level, were never in sync. And that needed to change. Also, I found in India, there was this thing that the longer hours you put in, the better employee you were considered, if that makes sense. It doesn't make sense to my way of thinking, because after a certain number of hours that you've been on the job, you are totally unproductive. You're so tired that there's a limit to what a human body can do and is capable of doing. But the hotel industry didn't seem to realize that. I don't know to what extent that has changed now over the last 26 years that I've been out of it, but it just doesn't seem to make sense.
If there's one thing that, yes, the hospitality industry has to look at and change, is the, expectation that you are not a good employee if you do not work minimum 16 hours in a day, which is impractical. And even today they do still think that, especially when you're looking at a trainee, because the curriculum today has this inbuilt on-the-job training, and they think that they are that much hands and legs. That's it. Nothing else, which is very sad, very bad. And they treat them like arms and legs. That's all. So that is a perception from the industry side which has to change. is not good. It changes, in some chains they are better.
If it's not riddled with politics, go for it. If you feel you can, if you have it in you to teach, if what you're doing is not riddled with politics, if you like being with younger people, go for it.
To elaborate what she's actually put very well, workplace politics will be there everywhere. You need to overcome that. However, if you are in a place where you want to be guiding somebody, where you want to share what you have gathered, or whatever it may be, where you are empathetic to the young person in front of you, I would say teach.
It's not a bed of roses.
No.
It's really hard work. And then if you feel, it's not the glamour job everyone thinks it is. It's just sheer slogging for a long, long time. Yes, it has its advantages. You do meet people, you do see things which you might not otherwise, but it's a lot of hard work. If you're cut out for that, go for it.
Even as a general manager, you have a lot of things to do. And today, yes, you have pointed out that there are these people who like to go and say, okay, I'm apprenticed to this chef, I'm apprenticed to this chef. He may have 2 Michelin stars, he may have 1 Michelin star, he may have. It's not that it is to be belittled, because there have been students in the past who have come into the college, who have been very happy to learn everything. And that is what I say to everybody who comes in. Learn everything. Go through the whole process. Choose your option, whichever it may be, whether you want to go into F&B, chefs, or general management, or whatever. That's another thing. But when you are here, you are going to look at everything, and the inputs that you get is going to make the final choice for you, regardless of what you feel or what your teacher says. The advice I would give to anybody coming into college, into hospitality, is 1, don't expect anything. It's easier that way. Do not expect to become a chef. Do not expect to become a GM. Do not expect anything. Go through the grind. Make your decision after you've done that. Today the curriculum offers you on-the-job training. So that also can say, yeah, I don't want to go back into this. I want out. It's a possibility. We all do think.
To go back to what you were saying, I completely agree with you that if you're apprenticing with a particular chef in a particular standalone restaurant, you are picking up only his quirks. So from an overall point of view, I would say if you want to be a chef, take a grounding in an establishment where you learn a wider scope and then go in as an apprentice with somebody else. Because then you've got a baseline and you're probably equipped to learn from both and maybe eventually branch out on your own on a stronger footing.
One thing I would like to also just share with you all is that if you noticed, going back to, of course, because a lot of it is with cuisine, it's not just the hotel functions as many things, I just said that. However, the cuisine, when you look at it and when you look at our Indian cuisine, I really wish students would pay more attention. And today, yes, thankfully there is a more shift to learning Indian cuisines, which is very, very, very varied. I mean, both of you know that we have immense things that we haven't even scratched the surface of. And one thing that every college should, I feel, whether it is IHMs or any of the hotel management institutes, is if you are in a particular area, in a region, I think the food from that region needs to be emphasized.